Hello once again. And if you didn't know, recently Shohei Ohtani and Yamamoto both signed with the LA Dodgers with a commitment of over $1 billion over the length of both of their contracts, including some deferred money at the end. And now there is a new debate in the baseball world. Who's worse? What the Dodgers are doing with deferred payments and trying to skirt the luxury tax, or the A's who don't spend money on anything? And I'm here to give you a little bit of a breakdown on what I think and maybe give you some insight into what might be going on. Thought a lot about how to structure this video, so I'm going to do it quickly and concisely based on 4 categories or 4 groups involved in the situation that either benefit or damaged by the decisions these two teams are making. We're going to do the league, the team itself, namely the ownership group, because it's important to make this distinction, especially when it comes to the A's, that the front office, the GMs and the staff and everyone below them all the way down to the players, for all intents and purposes, completely separate from the president of the team and the owner. The players and then the fans. So all of those groups of people have skin in this game and are affected in different ways by the decisions each organization is making. But before we get into that, we need to establish one thing, and it's a popular argument being made constantly on the internet about... Thank you. Sorry about that. What was I talking about? Yes. A popular argument being made across the internet. The old salary cap versus salary floor argument. For those of you who don't know, baseball does not have a salary cap. A salary cap is a maximum amount of money you can pay your players. So no team can spend way more than everyone else in the league to get a competitive advantage. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean much in baseball because it's a very different sport. One player can't take over like they can in other sports, namely basketball. But they've also mentioned a floor. A floor is the minimum amount a team has to spend on their payroll in order to make sure everyone is in basically the same range. Now that all sounds great. Everyone's the same. We all have the same ability to get the same players. So therefore, there is competitive balance. Competitive balance. Unfortunately, there are some things that are different about the game of baseball than other sports that changes the way that we have to structure these things. Those 2 sports that I just mentioned have 3 or 4 years of control of a player as soon as they get to the major leagues or the top level. There's no minor leagues for either one of those sports. That was a lie, actually. The NBA has the D League, but that is one step away. You could just grab a guy. It's just developmental league. They have one league. Football has nothing. So we have to go level after level after level of minor leagues in order to get to the major leagues. And then when we get to the major leagues, we have 6 years of control. That is 3 years of rookie and 3 years of arbitration. Now, I don't want to talk about arbitration right now. I can do a whole video on that. It's a garbage system. But that control that teams have over players is paid for by the lack of a salary cap. So in order to get a salary cap in baseball, the teams would have to then relinquish at least 2 years of control over a player. And that, for the teams, is a non-starter. Can't even have the conversation. But they do want a cap because, obviously, for owners, being able to say, yeah, but the cap makes it so you don't have to spend very much money and you can project how much profits you're going to make before the season even starts because you're limited. Your biggest expense, that is player salary. We would love a floor. A floor would be great. But unfortunately, we can't get a floor without a cap. And we're not going to give a cap unless they give up control, which they will not do. That is why it doesn't exist. Thank you. So very quickly, let's make our case for the 4 categories, taking into account how the Dodgers affect it and how the A's affect it. First, the league. The Dodgers are spending money. The deferrals of Ohtani's contract allows them to skirt the luxury tax, meaning they can defer also those costs associated till later and spread them out so that they actually don't go over the luxury tax and have to pay that as a penalty. Let me be very clear. The luxury tax is a soft cap. It was put in by the owners. The owners want the luxury tax. Yes, the luxury tax is supposed to create some sort of competitive balance so one team can't get everyone to defer their contracts and then create a super team. But fortunately, baseball does not have super teams. One player cannot take over It does not guarantee you're going to win. There are too many games. It's too long of a season. It just doesn't work like that. So it's not the advantage that everyone thinks it is. What the Dodgers are actually doing is bringing in millions of new fans in Japan. So for a league as a whole, the Dodgers signing 2 very high-profile Japanese players just included a country into fandom for a very large market team, which benefits the entire league because of revenue sharing. Conversely, the A's are the opposite. John Fisher does not want to spend money without getting a lot more money in return. It is that simple. He is gaming this system, taking revenue sharing without spending anything so that he can keep more of it. He also has shown very little interest in the game of baseball at all. Would you rather have an ownership group that is actively trying to build fandom, which then makes them money in the back end, of course, or would you like a man who is trying to hide and do nothing and just reap the rewards without putting in any of the work? Advantage Dodgers. Number 2, let's talk about the team itself. The Dodgers situation definitely benefits them. Of course it does. They're going to make a ton of money. That's just the way it is. Then not only that, they're going to have the Japanese market for a generation. This is going to be 20, 30 years here of Dodgers jerseys circulating around Japan. That is great for the Dodgers. On the flip side, Oakland, and by Oakland, I mean John, again, the rest of the organization, amazing people, they're doing their best with what they have. John gets a benefit as well. If anything, he's making more profit than a lot of other teams are because he doesn't spend any of the money. So both of their decisions benefit their teams because that's what businesses do. I'd say it's a wash. Now, the players. How do these decisions affect the player base? Let's do the A's first. The A's don't spend money on players. Not a lot of benefit there. If anything, then bringing down the basement of payroll allows other teams to slot in just slightly above them somewhere, and they can always say, well, we're not the A's. So then what they're doing is enabling other teams to say the same thing. Other owners that are of like mind would like to benefit as much as humanly possible, and they can move towards where John is, but they don't have to go all the way, so that way John will always take the brunt of the criticism and they can get away with doing very similar things. Orioles. So, Oakland, is this beneficial for players? No, it's not. Is the Dodgers philosophy beneficial for players as a whole around the league? Yes, and let me explain. Remember when I mentioned all that stuff about Japan and jerseys? We have something called licensing, where the entire active rosters in the major leagues share in a pool of money that is revenue sharing from merchandise, the use of our likeness, and so forth. The more jerseys that Yamamoto and Ohtani sell, the higher that pool of money goes. And that money is split evenly across the league. So the more popular they are in Japan, and by the Dodgers creating this situation by signing them both, the more money all players make on the back end. W. Once again, advantage, Dodgers. And lastly, and very much most importantly, how do these decisions affect the fans? There is adverse effects from the Dodgers' decision to sign 2 major players because those major players couldn't sign with anybody else. So now the Dodgers have 4 of the best players in the league. I understand, guys, I understand. I understand how frustrating that is, especially when you're in their division. Like you want to compete against them. You want games that are good. You don't want blowouts. But we're very fortunate that baseball is not that easy to do that. And you're 2 injuries away from then being just the team you were last year. But think about the addition of the new fans in Japan, which is wonderful. We love it when there's new fans. That's great. The Dodgers are going to get a bunch of new fans, which is good for them, but also is good for those fans. And that is inherently good for fandom as a whole, in my opinion. But I do understand how frustrating it is and annoying it is, but trust me, the advantage for winning or losing isn't as big as you think it is. It really, really isn't. Now let's talk about the A's collective philosophy. Is the A's philosophy good for fans? No. They didn't even put out a thank you fans social media post at the end of last year. Once again, it is not the social media team's fault that they have to think about the feelings of the boss's boss when they make posts. I don't blame them for avoiding that. They're just doing the best they can, just like all of us would do. But they don't have a fan fest anymore. They're basically shying away from fan engagement in any real honest way because that's necessary with everything that's gone on with the team moving and all of the announcements and vitriol coming out of the fan base. So the fans have to put on their own fan fest. I think it's pretty clear that the A's are not adding fans. They're losing them. So is that philosophy a good one for fans? No, it's not. So let's check the scoreboard. It's over here. It's right here. The league, Dodgers. The team / the owners, a wash. The players, Dodgers. And the fans, Dodgers. At the end of the day, what the Dodgers are doing is more of a net positive for the game than the philosophy of do as little as possible to take as much as you can. It's just that simple. Anywho, let me know what you thought in the comments below. Hit me with a like, a subscription. And today's word is pumpernickel. Hit me with a pumpernickel down in the comments. Let me know that you got to this point in the video. And I guess I'll see you next time on the channel. See you later. Have a nice day.